much more important. Okay, good. So, so all the things that we do are devotion and not decisive. If you think your life is in your hands, and if you forget to do something, then it is the end. It is, you know, that's the end of sanity. It's truly the end of sanity. But if you know that it's okay, so that's an important Jewish principle. It's in fact the first principle of Jewish belief, to know that Hashem does, will do, and did, will do, and does everything that's done. He decides everything. Okay, now, so we take, but having said that, because it's a mitzvah, we do take all the precautions, but we don't sweat it and we don't panic. We do everything, but we don't sweat it and we don't panic. And the second principle that I think is very interesting is to know that the unique situation that we're in now, like Yehezkel Shimon said, if we're all in our homes, it's not the coronavirus that placed us in our homes. It is Hashem who placed us in our homes. Hashem wants us to be here. And it is his design, and it is not a fluke called the coronavirus. That's Hashem's agent. But Hashem wants the situation. And even more than that, like some people might say, but I'm all alone in my house, and other people have a whole family, or they have a husband, or they have kids, or something like that. Whatever circumstance you are in is because Hashem has tailored it exquisitely to you and exquisitely to what he needs from you. If you're alone, first of all, you're never alone. Hashem is always with you. And if you're going crazy because you have 10 children, Hashem wants that situation. He wants something from you specifically in that situation. He designed it perfectly for you. So, and he wants us to know that we have a job right now. As Yehezkel Shimon was saying, this is not it is a frightening time. I'm not going to deny it. It is, yesterday I heard enough, about people that I know to drive a person insane, including people that I consider my best friends in the whole world. And, I was on the phone with a best friend, literally a person I can't think of many people that I'm closer to, and she's having trouble breathing. And it's a very, very difficult thing to hear, very, very difficult. But I have to know that this time, even with all the things that are going on, this time is a very special time. That's the most important thing to know. And there's something Hashem wants from me. And we have to figure it out. We have to ask ourselves, what might Hashem want from me? Does Hashem want me to show more warmth to somebody? Does Hashem want me to show more respect to somebody? Does Hashem want me to talk to him more? Does Hashem want me to open that relationship more, be a bigger part of my life? So it's something for all of us to think about. Number four, I'd like to say that not only does Hashem have a plan, not only is this Hashem's plan, but we know a lot about that plan. It's not like he has a plan and we are clueless. We know a lot about that plan. How do we know a lot about it? Number one, from our sages. Maybe a lot of you know this, but our sages said that this month, Nisan, throughout all our history, we've known that there's going to be Mashiach and there's going to be a final redemption. We're all going to live in Israel and all that stuff. And our sages have always said the most ripe time for that is the Hebrew month of Nisan. Well, we just entered the Hebrew month of Nisan. And we also know that this time, we're in the Hebrew year 5780. This is the most ripe time. We know that and it was talked about for a long, we're at the apex of the time when Mashiach is expected. And I'm also going to tell you something. It's going to sound like I'm a scholar, and I'm totally not a scholar. This is like people who are scholars with plots if they see me opening this book. But, our Torah is... So this is one volume of the Torah. It's Shmos. And the reason it's so thick, all the books of the Torah are really quite short. If you wrote the Torah without commentary, it would really be quite a short book. And but we have to know that an important thing to know about the Torah, God gave the Torah on Har Sinai, but he also gave something called the oral Torah that wasn't supposed to be written down. And because the Torah, to get a Torah in written form so that people would learn it, Hashem compressed it. He compressed it and compressed it. And
Shalom, Shodas, your mic is down a little bit.
It's down. You can't hear me?
You're just a little quieter than you were.
Is it better now?
Yeah.
Okay, good. Thank God I learned a little from kindergarten, and I have to keep it very close to me. Okay, so the Torah, much of what's in the Torah is in code form because Hashem couldn't say anything. The Torah is so concise; it's like headlines, and you have to know the text. You have to know the text beneath the headline. So, um, so one way that the sages figured out different things about the Torah is that there are different clues. One clue is if a word is repeated from if are we running out of time now? Okay.
No, it says it no longer has a time
Oh, good.
limit.
We no longer have. Okay, good. So one thing that we know is if a word is repeated in the Torah, and it's a unique kind of word. It's not like ish or something that's going to that's going to naturally be repeated. It's an unusual word. If there's an unusual word and it appears in different places in the Torah, then it's teaching you something about the other places where it's also said. So 800 years ago, one of the commentaries on the Torah, on the book of Shmos, a very famous commentary, maybe you've already seen this, his name was the Baal HaTurim.
All right, you can't hear you again. You can't hear you again.
Huh?
The volume is low again.
It is?
I'm
Yeah,
not
it is.
experiencing that. I've experienced you as consistent. So
Okay.
Yes.
are other people experiencing her as consistent?
Yes.
It got a little quieter and now it's fine.
Okay, so the Baal HaTurim was 800 years ago, and he wrote, you'll remember the sentence from the Haggadah. We do the Haggadah every year, so you remember the sentence that says, it describes the Seder night, what Haskell Shimon was saying, how, we roast that lamb, and then on that night, we're going to roast that lamb, roast it over fire, and you're going to eat it with matzah and more with matzah and moror. They should eat it. The line goes like this: "Vayochlu es habasar b'layla hazeh tzli eish umatzas umatzas al morim yochluhu." Yochluhu means they will eat it, but it's a word that only appears 4 times in all, not just the 5 books of Moses, in all 24 books of the Torah. And it only appears 4 times. So the Baal HaTurim wants to examine, what do we learn by this repetition of the word yochluhu? And he says, and I'm just going to say it very briefly, he says that yochluhu appears 4 times, twice right here in discussing the Passover Seder, that they shall eat it. That word appears twice, and he says that. Okay, and then he says the third time it appears is when Aaron, you remember, is Moses's brother, Moshe's brother, when he was inaugurated to be the Kohen Gadol, the head priest in the, for lack of a better translation, the Kohen Gadol, then he and his sons had to eat certain inaugural sacrifices, and they had to eat it in the entrance of the tabernacle. The tabernacle was a portable temple that the Jews built and used during the desert times. So it says there too, just like it says here, that the Jews had to eat that stuff and they were not allowed out of the house all that night. So too, it says, very interesting, where it says yochluchu is said again with Aaron and his sons. It says they are not allowed. The Baal HaTurim points out, isn't it interesting? They were also not allowed to leave the entrance of the tabernacle the whole time during the inaugural days. So he said, Yochluchu, the first time we were not allowed to leave, and Yochluchu the second time we were in a situation where we had to stay inside. We weren't allowed to leave. And then the Baal HaTurim says, it appears one more time, a 4th time. Where does it appear? It appears in the time. It appears in Yeshaya 62. That's Isaiah 62:9, and there it says it's talking about the ingathering of the Jews, and it's talking about yochluchu. They're going to eat. It's talking about something that they're going to eat, and the Baal HaTurim asks, why? What's the tie between all this? And he's saying it's to tie in the final redemption with the first redemption. Now, what does that mean? His whole point is whenever Yochluchu is said, it means that people were in a situation where they were not allowed to leave their homes. So he's implying that just as when we left Egypt, and just as when Aaron and his sons had to eat their inaugural sacrifices, they were locked into a situation and not allowed to leave. So too it'll be in the final redemption. So that's incredibly, that's very tantalizing stuff, because that's exactly our situation now. But I have to say that I heard this expression from a Rebbitzin that I loved very much, Rebbitzin Goldworm. She should have a Lichtige Gan Eden. She used to say, I'm not God's secretary, so I don't know exactly what's going to go on. And that's the truth. We're not God's secretary. We can see all these different things, and they're exciting, and they're awakening, and they awaken us to the possibility of what this time is. But can we say precisely that this is this? No, we'll see as it plays out. But it's too tantalizing to leave out. Anyway, we also know a lot about our times. We also know a lot about our times through what the Lubavitcher Rebbe told us. And the Lubavitcher Rebbe told us that, first of all, Lubavitcher Rebbe established himself as the Lubavitcher Rebbe, Lubavitchers knew for a long time that the Rebbe was a prophet, because he would say things that would come true, and they came true. But the Lubavitcher Rebbe became famous in the 1990s for the things he said in the presence of the whole world. For example, you remember when Saddam Hussein was poised to, we had warning before the Gulf War, and we knew that there were Scud missiles aimed at Israel. Saddam Hussein vowed that he would destroy Israel with these Scud missiles. And he said that they have poisonous warheads. And anyway, so Israel started building sealed rooms, and the Lubavitcher Rebbe made an amazing announcement. Before the war, he said, gas masks will not be necessary. All this stuff will not be necessary. Israel is going to remain the safest place in the world. Now, if you think about something like that, how can anybody possibly say something like that on the eve of a war with a madman? How could you and I could not say that? The only possibility for saying that is either somebody is incredibly irresponsible, or they have a higher source of information. So, so if you know anything about the Lubavitcher Rebbe, you can I think everybody can make that decision for themselves. That, anyway, so, and what happened? Not a single Jew was hurt by a bomb. The entire apartment buildings with hundreds of units came crashing to the ground, and not one Jew was hurt. And anyway, so as one rabbi said afterwards, what was that all about? It was like Hashem was helping the Rebbe to publicize himself throughout the whole world knew that the Rebbe is a prophet. This is not a simple thing. Same thing happened in the summer of 1991. In the summer of 1991, Russia had already experienced glasnost, and its doors were thrown open. Now, Lubavitchers had been teaching Judaism underground for years already, but now everybody was getting into the act. All the Jewish organizations were they had summer camps in Russia to teach Russian Jews about, to teach Russian Jews about, little kids, to teach kids about Judaism. All of a sudden, before Rosh Hashanah, in the end of the summer, 1991, hardline communists took back over the country. They held a coup, and they grabbed the country again, and it fell into hardline communist hands. All the Americans, all the camps, all the OU, everything else said, our children are counselors in those camps. And they ordered everybody home. Everybody home, close the camps, everybody come home. The hardline communists took over, and you're teaching Judaism, run for your lives, get on the plane. So Lubavitchers don't do anything without asking the Rebbe. And so the Lubavitchers called up the Rebbe. And the Rebbe said, and they said, so Rebbe, do we come home? And the Rebbe said, what's the question? Come home? Of course, continue your holy work. Don't interrupt. How can somebody say that? How could they possibly say such a thing unless they had higher information? Within a few days, there was not one, nothing happened. The whole coup blew over and Glasnost was reestablished. So, okay, good. So, and another thing, the Rebbe predicted Glasnost, and he knew about it even before Gorbachev knew about it. And I'm not going to take the time to tell you now, but if you want, you can call me anytime and I'll tell you that story because it's a marvelous story. So what did the Rebbe tell us about our times? We now know that he was a prophet. What did he tell us about our times? Number one, he told us in the 1990s that we've already entered the days of Mashiach. Number two, he told us that Mashiach is already in the world. Number three, he told us that Mashiach is already revealed. Number four, he told us that Mashiach's name is Menachem. He told us that 770, the Shul, is the house of Mashiach. And he told us that an unusual thing, out of the blue, in one sicha, in one talk that he gave, he said, by the way, burial has no effect on Mashiach. And he told us another thing. He told us he also told us the current events that we see now, you have to understand that they are part of the Geula. They are part of the redemption. He said, for example, also in the 1990s, the superpowers came to an agreement that they were going to turn swords into plowshares. They were going to redirect money from armaments into agriculture, especially directed at the third world, so that they could have more food. And the Rebbe said, you should not think that this is an example of the superpowers suddenly maturing. Oh, everybody's maturing. No, he said, that's not the case. He said, these are the bloodless victories of Melech HaMashiach. You're seeing the actions, the activities of Melech HaMashiach on the world. And so the last thing that the Rebbe told us, the last thing that the Rebbe told us is who we are. He said, we are the generation. He said, not him. He's not bringing Mashiach. We are bringing Mashiach. Mm-hmm. And he told us how we have to bring Mashiach. He said, this is your job. This is why we're all alive in this generation. We have an assignment, every single one of us as a Jew in this world. And non-Jews also have an assignment. And our assignment is to tell other Jews that the Geula is happening, the redemption is happening, to tell them that, and also for us to have better love of our fellow Jews, to do our mitzvahs better, to learn about the redemption. Learning about the redemption speeds it up. And I want to give a little plug for, there's a rabbi that Haskell Shimon and I really like very much. He quoted Yossi Jacobson, who's very good, but there's another rabbi, Rabbi Reuven Wolf, and he has a website, Maayon, MAAYON.com. And he's very exciting to listen to. Okay, enough about that. You can't talk enough about that, but I want to talk in a very practical way about how to be calm. There is something that we have all these thoughts and the thoughts help, but there's another route to be calm, another very, very direct route, and it's extraordinarily effective. And this is what it is. And everybody's going to say, but I do that already, but you don't do it enough. The best route to calm is to start thanking Hashem for every tiny thing in your life. Mm-hmm. Now, I don't mean, like something good happens and you thank him. I mean, you wake up and you say, oh my gosh, I've got another day of life. Thank you for, there's a rabbi who, you can find him on YouTube, Shalom Arush, A-R-U-S-H. And he says, you should say, not just thank you Hashem for my hands, or not just thank you Hashem for my 10 fingers. Thank you Hashem for this joint and this section of my finger and this section and this section. Imagine life without one of these 30 sections of your fingers. Mm-hmm. Imagine life without lips. Imagine life without teeth. Imagine life without a nose. Imagine life without eyes. Imagine life without eyelashes. Imagine life without hair. Imagine life without anything that you have. Imagine if you had to take care of your digestion yourself, your body didn't take care of it. Would you know how to take a piece of food and process it to get the energy out? No. He gave us this amazing thing called bodies. And the most amazing thing he did is that he made us Jews. And you have to if you thank Hashem, just a lot. it starts penetrating your own consciousness. It's not for Hashem's sake, it's for our sake. And when you do it an awesome amount, all of a sudden, your faith in Hashem skyrockets. And it's just because you realize he's doing so much for me, he's going to do a little more. I'm not so frightened. He's going to do a little more. And I'm telling you, I've seen this in my own life. After, I'm telling you, I had such a plethora of bad news yesterday and today. And Baruch Hashem, I righted myself. It's like taking my temperature. If I see anxiety is rising, I start thanking Hashem. And I just had to do it a little bit because I've been doing it so much. And I started singing. I'm not going to sing online, but I started singing. It's such an old love song that I don't even know the words. It predated me. And there's a song, Only You. Only You, it's a love song. I started singing that to Hashem, and I meant it. Only You, I'm in love with him because I know, and I'm telling you, it's this thank you Hashem business. It is amazing. I can't recommend it highly enough. And the last thing I would like to recommend is that whenever I have a quandary in life, Lubavitcher Rebbe is available. Now, it might sound strange to you, but he's totally available. As he told us, burial has no effect on him. Mashiach's name is Menachem. 770 is his home. I write a letter to the Rebbe, and I'm lucky. I happen to have books of the Rebbe's letters. I'll show you. And if I have a problem, look at all the letters. My husband is bothering me. Before Pesach, I have to clean all my letters out of the books of letters to the Rebbe. And I'm telling you, I have seen so many miracles through letters that I've written to the Rebbe. And you can do it yourself. There's a website called igrotkodesh.com, igrotkodesh. That's one word, igrotkodesh.com.
One more time.
igrotkodesh.com. I have gotten so much amazing advice over the years, and so much, so much direction, and so much calm. If the Rebbe gives you a bracha for something, it's like very, very calm, a specific bracha. And so much direction. I'm going to tell you one tiny Igro story from my life. One tiny story. This is not a calming story, but it's an amazing story. And, my father passed away in 2007. And I was already from for how long? I was already from for almost 30 years. No, almost 20 years at that point. And so I did everything like a Spitz Jew, like a Spitz Chassid. Everything, people said Mishnayos for him. We had a perfect Shiva. We had everything. On the 30th day after the passing, or whatever it was, Shloshim, I'm not sure if it's after the passing or after the funeral, we had a big affair in his honor. And, we brought in a speaker from California. I mean, we couldn't have done more. And that year only, but many times when I put a letter into Igros Kodesh, volumes of the Rebbe's writings, I opened to the same letter again and again and again. What did that letter say? I only got it during the year of Avelis for my father. It said, I'm sorry to say, I don't want to bring you pain in this year of Avelis for your father. I don't want to bring you added pain, but something is being done that is not right. And I would open to that letter, I would say, what am I not doing right? I'm doing everything. What am I not doing right? And again, and I got this letter. And what was I doing wrong? Now, there was something that, back from my secular days, I had the impression that you don't go to the grave until a year has passed. So my sister and I didn't go to my father's grave until a year had passed. And, the stone had already been put up a long time ago with a veil or whatever. And we went for the unveiling on the yard side, on the year anniversary. And when we got to the graveyard, we saw that next to my mother, at the head of my father's grave, there was a different man's stone entirely. and my father's stone was in an altogether different row, not where he was buried, way off there. And is that amazing? Is that an interesting story? So it's, that's just a tiny example of the letters that I've received. So that's also a very big source of calm and direction in life for me. So anyway, does anybody have any questions?
Yes.
So what happened? They put the stone in the wrong place?
They put the stone in the wrong, they put my father's stone
Right, Faye.
on some other
Okay.
grave and some other man's, and it's a big bush. It's a big embarrassment for the person who passed away. It's not good in heaven. So the Rebbe
Right.
was telling me something right, but
Right,
it took me
right,
a year
right.
to figure it out.
Shlomo
Awesome.
Yehudis, could you please spell that again because I'm not finding it.
Ellen, I can send it to
igrotkodesh.com.
Yes.
igrotkodesh.
I don't think so.
No.
Ellen, I can send it to you. Don't worry. I got you covered.
Thank you.
Okay.
You're
good.
welcome.
Can you
Good.
post it in the chat so we could figure out what it is?
Sweeties, you can type. Open
Huh?
chat and type.
No,
Let
they're
me see if
gonna
I
do
can
it
help
because-
her out with that. Hold on.
Yeah, yeah. Oh,
Davida
good. Thank you.
Gabora to
Thank
the
you,
rescue.
Davida Gabora. Okay, good. Anybody else have any
Thank you.
questions?
I do, and forgive me because I asked a question already, but
That's okay.
have you looked to the Rebbe's letters or written a new letter to have any more insight about our current situation?
No, I have not. I don't write the letters like that. I'll tell you, I write letters when here's what the Rebbe likes. I'll tell you, it's a very important point. How do you write a letter to the Rebbe? You write a letter to the Rebbe the same way that you would ask the Rebbe when you saw him in real time, when you saw him in person. When you saw him in person, the Rebbe didn't like people to ask him questions about, let's say a person had a choice to move to Paris or Madrid. The Rebbe didn't like people to say, Rebbe, you tell me, should I go to Paris or Madrid? The Rebbe didn't like that. The Rebbe liked, this is what people would do when they ask the Rebbe in person. The Rebbe likes a person to use all their own abilities to function in the world, and to make a plan. So he wants. I gotta save my voice for the morning. Okay. So he wants. When I write a letter, I make up a plan, and I ask the Rebbe for a bracha. That's what I do. So, for example, 2 weeks ago last night, my best friend was having a wedding in Muncie. I think it was the last of the big weddings. It wasn't a big wedding. It was like only make 100 or 120 people. But it was already a little controversial to go to such a thing. But on the other hand, everybody was canceling on her. Her whole family canceled on her. And she and I, we lived together for 4.5 years. We lived in one room. We were roommates, literally roommates, and we're very close. And I didn't want to cancel on her. I just didn't want to do it. So I asked the Rebbe for a blessing to go to this wedding. And I asked him for a blessing to go to this wedding, even though it was already a little controversial. And I got a blessing. And then people started calling me, begging me not to go. My sister begged me not to go. My employer, who never interferes in my personal life, called me up. We were going to leave on a Sunday morning 2 weeks ago for the wedding, which was Sunday night. And my employer, who never interferes in my life, begged me not to go. But I had a clear blessing to go. And not only that, I opened again, and the Rebbe said, enjoy the reunion, because this was not only going to be a wedding, and it was not only going to be support for my friend, for my very, very, very close friend, but this was like a once in 100-year event, because all the women that I became observant with, I went to a women's yeshiva in Muncie. Tons of them were going to be there. I was going to see people I haven't seen in 20 years who I was very, very close to. It would have been a very, very big loss for me. And the Rebbe said, have a good time at the reunion. And so I flew there. We flew there, and we had a good time. We had a wonderful time. And it's not going to be a pretty picture, God forbid, if I get sick. But I was very happy and very confident. And I came home, and it's more than 2 weeks since then. And poo, still talking, still here. And anyway, so yeah. So I don't ask the Rebbe. I wouldn't. Maybe other people use Igros like that, but that's not how I was taught to use it. I was taught to use it by me using all my resources, coming up with a plan, and then asking the Rebbe for a blessing for that plan, and see if you get a blessing or not. That's how I was taught how to use it. So that's how a rabbi on the Beis Din gave that. The head, one of the head rabbis in Crown Heights gave that advice years ago. He said people should use Igros the same way they approach the Rebbe, the same way they ask questions of the Rebbe. Anybody else have any questions?
Shalamis, I have to exit because I have a class with Rabbi Zuber.
Please,
So
please. It's already after our time.
Yeah, thank you so much. Happy birthday
Thank you.
to Haskell, and
Thank
nice to
you.
see and hear
Hi,
everybody.
Joyce.
It was very, very nice.
Yeah,
Yeah.
very
Shalom.
nice.
Shalamis Yehudis,
I'll say the same thing I say to my class in the morning. I love you guys. It's so
do you
nice.
have a question, Shalamis Yehudis, if there's time?
Okay, good. Yes.
Okay, so there's a little bit of preface, and I'll try to make it quick.
Oh, Davida
So-
Gibora.
Yeah, it's me.
Okay.
So on my issue, the biggest kerfuffle on the WhatsApp group is there aren't
What's
any
kerfuffle?
eggs.
What's kerfuffle? Oh. You mean
Oh, like a
talking
big
about-
balagan.
Oh, there aren't any eggs. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's true.
Yeah.
It's very hard to come by eggs, and so a lot of neighbors are apoplectic. And I mean, obviously we need an egg for the Seder plate, but aside from that, just in general, it's really challenging. So it's kind of a reinvention opportunity, right? So I have a practical question and a spiritual question. So one is the reinvention necessity similar to what we had to do before we left Egypt? So that's the spiritual question. And then the practical question is, if we can't get an egg for whatever reason for our Seder plate, Has v'Shalom, can we use, like, is there any kind of like visual substitute that we can use to represent the egg? Like a drawing or a picture?
I'm not, that's a question for a Rav. I'm not a Rav. I would say so. I know that the Rebbeim are being extremely not lenient in chametz and in not get, you have to not eat chametz on Pesach.
Right.
It's crucial to the Jewish soul. It is, we need this. As Amy once said, where are you, Amy? Are you still on? And as Amy once said, we need this 8-day inoculation. It's like a low candida diet. And it's a spiritual thing. It's a spiritual, our souls crave it. It is, matzah is humble bread, and it brings us back to oneness with Hashem. It's not like we're not the big shot. We make Hashem the big shot for 8 days. And, but I know that, having said that, there are women with large families, for example, they have all their kids home. It's impossible to clean. And so the rabbis are saying, it's a year to get rid of all the chumras, all the extra things that you do. Don't do spring cleaning, just do what you need to get rid of the chametz. And whatever, there are certain things that are you cannot violate.
You cannot compromise.
You can't eat chametz. There's no way.
Of course.
And on Seder night, you must eat matzah, and you must tell the story of the Seder. Those are the biggies. You must tell the story about how we were in a big pickle in Egypt, and people didn't know what to do. And Hashem and first they complained to each other. It's very interesting. In Egypt, we complained to each other in the beginning. We said, "Isn't it awful? We're in a terrible situation." And then when the Jews turned, all of a sudden it dawned on them, I can ask Hashem. And they turned to Hashem and they asked him for help. Hashem said, now I heard the voice. I was waiting for this. I was waiting for you to call for me.
Bezrat Hashem, all the chickens in the neighborhood will start laying.
Maybe.
You need a blessing for eggs, which is interesting. You need that. You need to get a blessing for the eggs.
Right.
There's a vegan. You can make a vegan egg replacement out of flax seed and water.
Really?
I guess you can scramble it and pretend it's round.
Ellen, I
don't
love
know.
you.
You put
The
it in a
vegan
cookie
egg.
cutter? I don't know.
I've never done it, but I I just looked it up and it's just flaxseed, which is,
Water.
Shalom
It makes a
uses
gooey
that.
glob. It's you use it for baking instead of eggs. You use it for baking. I would say, first of all, God willing, you'll have an egg, and secondly,
I may.
God willing, you'll get a hold of an egg, and secondly, Hashem provides us exactly with what we need. And in certain situations, when people didn't have, what could they do?
But you answered my question because you said that right in Mizrahim, they were all yentetel levenchik kvetching.
That's right. And then they turned to Hashem and their self, and Hashem said, "Oh, wonderful! They remembered me." And he told Moshe, "Go get the Jewish people, get them out of there."
Beautiful.
And,
Wow.
yeah.
Thank you.
Very important point. Yeah.
I have a question for the group.
Please.
Yeah.
So, for those of us, and many of us who have been flattening the curve already for like over 2 weeks, 16, 17 days or whatever it's been. And then by the time, Seder comes along, many of us are going to have been at this for close to a month. Would you
What
like
do you mean at this?
this
Quarantine.
flattening the curve business, right? So
What do
if
you mean
we-
flattening the curve? I'm sorry, I don't know the
the
language.
flattening the curve is the idea that by social distancing and isolating that we are slowing down and the virus, that the idea that if you are a carrier and you don't know it, then it
Yes.
passes through you and you don't infect anybody else, and then the cases of the folks who need help become exposed, and then they get help, and then the last wave would be like the first responders and the frontline people and grocery and Amazon. But for all of those of us who have been doing our piece to be part of that movement, and many families have, if most people have been doing it and playing by the rules for 1 month, do you invite a few people for Seder? If
I want to
feel
tell
like you've
you,
all been
You
clean-ish,
can order right now from CJP a Seder meal, and Seder, like if you're in Massachusetts, CJP is doing that for all the families. Like my rabbi, he ordered.
Hi, Esther.
And
I mean, is anybody having guests or going?
I think from what I've heard, at least in Israel, Amy, the answer is no, because when people are wherever phase of the thing, this crummy thing they're at, they can still like hold on to the passing carrier status even after they're better, and then give it like, so you could be completely quarantined for like the month, and then somebody can come into your house and they can just like reintroduce it, and you have to start all over again.
Wow.
My friend's daughter was in school one
wait a minute.
Passover.
If they're completely quarantined, they can. How could that happen?
No, if you're quarantined, right,
Yeah.
and you've been in quarantine for a month,
I
and
understand.
then Chas v'shalom,
Yeah.
somebody else comes in
Right.
that maybe wasn't in quarantine,
Right.
or they had it and then they got better,
Yeah.
but
Mhm.
they may still have lingering traces.
Too soon.
Yeah,
So
then
what
they
if
can
anybody
reintroduce
you would
it.
invite for a month
Use
who's been
Zoom.
socially distant, has had no symptoms, and it's
No.
not like they were sick and then got better.
You don't
Thank you.
know. You just don't know because you
But
and
Amy,
me, we
This is
might
the way it
carry.
mutates.
It's really,
Amy,
it's
this
really
has been-
unknown.
Okay.
Really
This is-
unknown.
Go ahead.
I
This
mean,
has been,
yesterday I sneezed couple times and I started to have headaches, and like I was shaking up. Oh no, I hope I didn't get it. I didn't go outside. I was staying all these 2 weeks at home, and this is my third week, and it's insane. It's crazy. I'm missing my kids. I'm missing my normal lives. This is so unusual, and I literally on my own. And some days I have my kid with me, and this is like literally insane. So everyone recommending right now just to keep the social distance, and
Yeah.
even at the time of
Yeah.
holidays. And it's many organizations in our state, Massachusetts, that support, like they would bring a Seder plate with a meal for the Passover to your doors, just like to make sure.
hello? What happened?
She froze.
Well,
She
my
froze.
friend's
Uh-oh.
daughter was in Rochester and she led our Seder. We were in Sudbury. She led the Seder over a television like this or a little computer.
Not
was
kosher.
great.
So no
Not
guests.
kosher.
I
Not
mean,
kosher,
obviously,
not
we're going to
kosher.
Zoom my parents
Yeah.
either
It's not
way.
kosher?
I think my parents
Why is it
probably
not-
had
Over
guests for
television?
Over the Zoom.
Like what we're
For those
doing
of us
Zoom?
who
It's
are
not
not
kosher?
No, because you're recording. You're not allowed to record. You're not allowed to take pictures. You're not allowed to record.
Well, then
It's not- it's a
then someone
violation
might
of
be
Shabbos.
alone. I don't know.
Okay, so listen, there's a great story. So, Lubavitcher Rebbe for 60 years, he was married. It's a nice time, He was married for 60 years, and during that time, he had a Seder every every Seder he had with his wife. After his in-laws passed away, he had a Seder alone with his wife every Seder. And then his wife passed away in 1988. And then everybody said, Rebbe, come to us, or we'll come to you. We'll send Bachram. And the Rebbe said, no, I'm going to be fine. And because a Jew, it's a commandment. If you have nobody if you ask the 4 questions, can you ask the 4 questions when there's nobody there? And the Torah answers, yes, you can make a Seder on your own and ask the 4 questions. And you're with Hashem, you're Hashem's child. You're asking those 4 questions. And so the Rebbe had that Seder, and every Seder after that by himself. And Yossi Jacobson was a 15-year-old kid at that time, and he and some other Bachrim stood outside of the Rebbe's house on that first Pesach that he was going to be alone. And when it came time for Shvo Chamascha, when you open the front door and you say that paragraph, Shvo Chamascha, Hashem, pour out your wrath on the nations that don't listen to you, he saw the Bachrim, gave them a wave, and went back into his house. And he had a wonderful Seder. It's not normal for us. It's not the norm, but a person can be blissfully happy with just Hashem if he knows that this is Hashem's plan. Hashem wants me just to himself. And so it's like reframing it. But every moment of your life, Hashem wants it. He wants that particular design for you. He has a plan for you.
Thank you. I have to leave. I didn't realize it was after 8. It's so
Yeah,
appreciated.
you guys, I have to
Thank
leave
you.
too.
Sorry.
All right.
So
Love
nice.
you. Thank you so
Love
much for the
you.
co-op.
Thank you so much.
Everyone stay well.
Aziz and
See
Pesach.
everybody.
I didn't write. Now there's only 8 of us. There was like more than 14. If somebody remembers who was on and can email me a list, I'd love that.
I'm pointing at you, DG.
Hi, sweetie.
I'm pointing at you.
Okay, so I'm going to leave. If I leave, will that spoil it for the rest of you? Yeah.
Yeah.
I think so
You guys
because you're
wanna
the
stay on?
host.
Just
Sorry.
writing down that Susan was here.
You know what? Susan,
Yes, it
that's
was
right.
nice to see
And
Susan.
and Chaviva was here.
Oh,
Chaviva
Susan,
Everybody
Zeltzer.
went down too.
Okay.
Aviva was here.
Okay, good.
And Emily, that's
Joyce.
Emily.
What about
Hi.
Joyce?
I have
Miss
Emily.
Joyce.
Joyce
Oh,
was here, but
Joyce.
she had to leave to go to Rabbi Zuber's class.
Okay, that's right. Okay,
Bye,
good.
everybody.
Bye,
Thanks.
Shalom.
See?
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Such the
Good
math.
night, everyone. Good
Yes,
night.
everybody.
It was really a pleasure.
Good to see you,
Okay.
Beth.
Thank you
Good to
so
see
much.
you, Amy.
Good to see you.
Yes.
Okay,
Good to
bye-bye.
see you, Shalom.
Good night. Good night. Good to see you. So nice, Ellen, to have you. Okay, good.
Please do this again, Shalom and Shahudis. This is
It'll be fun.
awesome.
Thank you so
Wonderful.
much.
Thank
Love
you.
it. Okay,
Bye.
bye-bye. Okay.